Go ahead and get started. I'm sure I know that council member Alexander, thank you. I do know who's on the council, is going to be a few minutes late. So we'll go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with board and commission interviews. And we're going to start with the Board of Adjustment. Charles here. Charles Janicki, would you come on down up here to the microphone? I can't figure it out, so.
He's just gonna be late.
So if you'll just join us right here at the podium, and we're not going to make this difficult. We're just going to ask you to let us know why it is you'd like to serve on the Board of Adjustment, and if there are things about your experience or life that might help us understand why, then that would be great to hear. And it doesn't have to be a very long thing, but whatever you feel like sharing.
Well, I've done volunteer work before, and it's something that I've done for other organizations, and it's something that my family and particularly my grandmother instilled in us when we were younger. So and volunteer work and giving back is something that I've always done. My most recent experience has been I served on the Parks and Recreation Board for the city of Fenton for 10 years. And I also been on the Board of Directors for Memory Care Home Solutions for 9 years and served in that capacity as well. While I was on the Parks Board at the city of Fenton, I was involved with the Heroes Memorial, which we built back in 2005. And also during that time, a few years after that, I was involved with the city of Manchester and built a Veterans Memorial for them. I'm a licensed architect. I've been licensed since 1982. I got my degree from the University of Illinois in Chicago in 1976. And so I've been doing volunteer work also with my parishes that I belong to. Most recently now I belong to St. John's Parish down on Delore. I've worked in the city of St. Louis. I worked St. Louis County. I've worked for 14 different fire districts as an architect. Currently, we're doing work in Lincoln County as an owner's representative. And I've done work, used to working with various government agencies. Most recently with work we're doing in St. Louis City, working with Cultural Resources. We're doing a project in Cherokee Historic District. We've done some vacating with some easements. So I'm used to working with government agencies and that sort of thing.
Great.
So I've had that kind of experience that I can bring to the table. I've done work in Webster Groves. I've been before the Architectural Review Board. I've done presentations there. So I'm used to working with government agencies as well. So I've been doing this a long time.
Sure.
I've been on that side of the table. I've been on this side of the table. I'm used to giving presentations to boards. I'm used to hearing from, individuals coming before us, particularly with this, with being on the Parks Board, hearing from people who want to, come to us and have, things that they want to do with our parks. And so I've had that kind of experience as well. So
Okay.
I think I can bring a lot to the city with my experience, and I just love giving back. It's
Good.
something that was instilled to us when I was younger.
Mhm.
And I think I have a lot that I can offer to the city of Webster Groves. I've lived here for almost 10 years, so
Okay.
I own pride.
All right. Thank you, Charles. I think we're going to see if anybody has questions for you.
Yeah. So there's any questions?
Appreciate your applying.
Yeah.
I'm good,
So,
thank you for applying.
okay.
Would you be interested in the architectural review board?
That and the Parks Board. Like I said, I've worked on parks. One of the things that I had, which as an architect, when I first came on to parks with the city of Fenton, was resolving an issue. I don't know if you're familiar with River Chase. Back when I was put onto the Parks Board, I had to resolve a construction problem. And they have penthouses on the top of their building. It was raining inside of the penthouses. And so much so that it was leaking inside the building. I had to resolve an issue between the construction manager, the contractor, the architect, and the city of Fenton. I had to bring them all together to solve that problem. That's kind of expertise. And incidentally, the mayor who appointed me to that position on the Parks Board was Dennis Hancock, who is now the newly elected on the.
Yes, one of your references, it pats you on the back right away. Yeah, I mean, I think.
I babysit his grandson on Friday.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That's why he wants to be given.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank
Nice
you
meeting.
very much. And we'll be in touch soon. Thank you. We next have for the Old Webster Business District Advisory Commission, Mr. Frank Romano. So Frank,
Hi, good evening.
welcome. Please just tell us a little bit about,
My name
other
is,
than your arm being twisted.
yes, well, my name is Frank Romano. I live here in Webster. We've lived here for about 10 years now. We also have worked in Webster for 12 years as the manager of Robust Wine Bar before doing a few other consulting jobs in the city and then opening Parkmore Drive-In in July 2020. So I've been in the restaurant business for about 25 years or so, both as an owner and a manager. But I grew up in the restaurant business, been exposed to lots of different scenarios, both in the city and in St. Louis County. We had a restaurant in Grand Center, worked for Grand Center Inc. When they helped reopen Jazz at the Bistro, and then we ended up taking over the restaurant from them. Had that for 13 years. I see the public a lot. We have over 1,000 people that come through the Parkmore Drive-In every week. And we hear what everyone has to say, both about parking and about their traffic and construction and visiting. And also a lot of praise for the events that the city puts on and the way that it looks and the security and how safe they feel. So I think that I can add that to, the advisory commission, and just being in the restaurant business, things affect restaurants different than other retail stores or properties. So I think that I could help out a little bit with that.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Frank?
No.
Sarah, don't let me forget you on there if you do. All right. Well,
Questions,
thank
but
you yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the Sustainability Commission. And we have 2 vacancies there. Andrew, would you like to go first? All right, then I'm going to call you first. This is Andrea Parton. How are you?
How are you?
I think you probably know what the drill is. at
I
this
think
point.
I got it now. I've lived in Webster now for 10 years, but I taught for in Parkway, actually, school district. I've taught for 2nd and 3rd there. And so it was easy to get involved in the community and just you're kind of thrown into it. And so I missed that. And I've been looking for a way to kind of get back in it. And at school, I helped with the reduce and the compost and things like that. And so I try to be an example for my kids. I have 3. And so I want to sustain Webster and keep it beautiful, but also move it forward and keep it, make it maybe a little, it's very walkable, it's very bikeable, but just continuing that, making it safer. And I know more and more businesses are coming in, like the Bagel Union and stuff, and that's like super. I don't think I'd really want my kids walking that right now, but so just stuff like that, keeping it safe and for my kids and setting that example for them is important. But yeah, I hope to get them involved more. I try to get involved with the Shady Creek and things like that, but hoping to get the education and the schools involved as well as much as I can.
Great.
So,
Thank you
yeah.
very much. Are there questions for Andrea?
Thank you, guys.
I'm just going to steal, by the way, I wish I knew it earlier. The title of house manager. I should have been using that for years.
That is.
So-
I was on a field trip all day with few moms, and I think they're adding that to the rest.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you. Also for the Sustainability Commission, we have John Hickey. Come on up, John.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hello.
So I've lived in Webster for 22 years and had 2 children who went all the way from ECEC through the high school. So they were like as Webster School District as you can be. I have long been interested, and I've also worked with Yvonne Stein-Gruby on the Webster Groves Greenkeepers, and there's still more work to do in Shady Creek. We left some honeysuckle for you to pull too. And I've enjoyed working with that part of the city volunteer corps. When I went to college way back in the olden days, I went to the School of Natural Resources at the University of Michigan. I'm a native St. Louisan, but I went to school out of state. I've been interested in environmental issues ever since. For 10 years, I was the Missouri director for the Sierra Club. In that role, I worked a lot on municipal environmental policy, whether that would be energy codes, solar array codes, electric vehicle infrastructure, all those sorts of issues. And I think that municipal government has real opportunities to improve sustainability practices, and I feel like the history I would bring to that will be helpful. And I'm also teaching in the University College at the Washington University, a class on sustainability and how to do the politics, get the politics right to be able to change municipal and state policy on sustainability issues. So that's what I think I would bring to the commission.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have questions for John?
Great experience.
Sounds like you have a lot of expertise.
Even for a guy from the school up north. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. All of you who have entered or who have been through interviews here this evening are welcome to stay for the meeting. It doesn't hurt anyone's feelings if you want to get on with your life for the evening as well. So feel free to stay or go as that helps you. But our city clerk, Katie Nakazana, will be in touch with you soon. All right. Does anyone have anything from the regular agenda that they would like to review? I'm going to take that as no. Okay, so let's do mayor, council, city manager issues and updates. Sarah, so I don't forget, would you like to begin for us, please?
Sure, but I don't have any updates, sorry.
Well, that was an easy way to start. Emerson?
No updates, Mayor. Pam?
Yes, I do have updates. Both the BDC and Sustainability Commission have met since our last meeting. BDC talked about work in Webster Groves, the launch of the new digital campaign. And just prior to the meeting that was launched, and by that time, the campaign had increased 400% in the number of hits.
Oh.
There were 14 new job postings. And the placement fees are all covered by ARPA funds, which is a good use of those funds. They also talked about various methods to tie the businesses together into one, such as an online mobile directory. They're talking about hosting 1 or 2 events for the business owners to gather with City Hall and discuss maybe a business liaison position. Sustainability had several items on their agenda, but coming up for community events are No Mo for Bees, which is a talk on Thursday, the 16th. And that's in conjunction with the Green Space Advisory Commission. That's essentially talking about pollinators and how to attract them and kind of convert your yard to a nice little native pollinator habitat. And then they're also going to be co-sponsoring Webster on Wheels again this year, which is going to be taking place on April 7th. And the main objective for this year is they're looking to increase ridership. I'll have more updates on that after the next meeting. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. David,
Nothing for me, Madam Mayor.
Nothing.
keep going.
I'm trying to think, because I don't think we had a work session last meeting, right?
We
So-
did not.
So Green Space had a lecture talk at the library about 3-4 weeks ago, probably, on kind of turf reduction. That was very well attended. It was very popular, and that went well. And that's part of this kind of eco ed series that Council Member Bless mentioned. The next one is the No Mo for Bees. It's coming up. I know that they're working also with Jenny to get things on the calendar and notified. So we watch that on Facebook and events going up there. Those have been really great talks. We had the Green Space Advisory meeting last week, and there was a presentation about dark skies and what that could mean for Webster. It's a very exciting idea. It's also super complicated and would involve like lots of different parts of the city, staff and commissions. So that's like really early stages, just trying to feel out kind of what a path would look like. And then my recommendation was to do that early. What's the kind of ideal plan for the progress, and then bring that to council and make sure that they're on the right track, that kind of meshes, maybe some kind of like joint subcommittee or something like that. So more to come on that, but the presentation was recorded, and if anyone's interested, that'll be on the city's YouTube channel. And Historic Preservation did not meet this month. We'll meet again soon, next
Okay,
week.
great, thank you.
Hmm.
Katie, anything from you?
No, Mayor.
Neil?
No, ma'am.
Great.
Yes, ma'am. Well, two council ladies took my my thunder with the NOMO April, so I was excited to share that. But it's going to be fun. And you're right, Green Space and others have been working with Jenny on just some marketing for it, if you will, along with getting in some yard signs for residents that would like to put the signs in their yard. We'll of course put some on City Hall's lawn, as we'll participate as well, and then within some of our parks. So excited about that. The only other item that I will share, which we'll also get out in our Friday page, is that today we were awarded the GFOA, award for the popular annual finance report. So a big congratulations to our finance team.
Great, thank you very much. I do have a few things. We received a request from the National League of Cities to sign on to a rail safety letter. As I'm sure you're aware, through the news, there have seemed to be just growing numbers of rail accidents, and this is asking Congress to address the issue given our bisection of rail. It seemed like a logical thing to do, but as Mayor Welch has in the past, I just wanted to come to council and make sure this was something that you all were okay with me signing on to.
Yes.
All right, that's great. Thank you. I also want to point out in your packet, you have a letter from the Clergy Coalition. I think it was in the Thursday packet that talks about their upcoming event, which is Sunday at Unity United Methodist Church at 2 p.m. Is an educational event on restrictive covenants in housing. And they are kicking that off as a way to begin to educate our community about where those still exist. They don't have the force of law, but they certainly say something about our community's past. They asked me to invite all of you to join in on Sunday if you're available, so please do. The Arts Commission met this morning. Lots of things going on there, but what I will emphasize is April is Poetry Month. They're going to do a children's poetry workshop, a haiku workshop. There's also going to be, for the first time, I believe, some music involved at Garden Cafe. There will be a flyer out, I think probably the next week or two, that'll show all the events. So let's enjoy Poetry Month. Charter Review Advisory Board met last night. They've been through the entire charter. They're now working on what the priorities are that they really want to examine and make recommendations on, as well as working on community engagement strategies. And so they're talking about some focus groups, perhaps some surveys as well. So expect those to be coming later this month and into April. And then the last thing I will say is I'm going to talk about NOMO too. We seem to want to talk about NOMO April a lot. I did invite Webster University, Eden Seminary, the Webster Grove School District, and NARICS to join us in that. I've already heard back from Eden, and I just sent that this afternoon, and I've already heard back from Eden that they want to get involved. So hopefully we will have some of our community organizations on board with that as well. Okay. Let's get to our topics now, and we will start with the Crossroads Special District Advisory Commission report to council. I got all that out. Heidi, you would join us up here. I know that you have a PowerPoint and we're happy to have you here. And I am very impressed that you got a Big Ben shirt to wear. Well done.
Yes. Okay, I am representing the Crossroads Business District. I am Dr. Heidi Butts and I own Big Ben Orthodontics on Big Bend Boulevard. The Crossroads District is located on Big Bend and we extend from Chinooks all the way to Gray Avenue. We are assessed at about $5.3 million in commercial property value. And we are home to multiple professional and medical offices, but we have a growing number of retailers in our district, as you've seen with Union Bagel and everything that's coming on board. So it's quite exciting. Next slide, please. Our biggest idea that is going on right now, and we're trying to get off the ground, and we have been for quite some time, is our streetscape. And now we are working with St. Louis County because they were awarded a grant, and for the Big Bend Boulevard safety for the kids walking to Hickson School, because it's not the junior high school anymore, but Hickson School. And so we have been working on this for quite some time, but now it's really coming to fruition. So it's getting quite exciting. With it, the city capital plan includes a $390,000 in fiscal year 27 for the streetscape, for the lights in the area improvements. And we're hoping to kind of get this started in about 25 with completion in 27. And with it, the Elm and Big Bend intersection will receive a much needed upgrade for the pedestrian crossing for all the safety of the kids and anyone else that is crossing there. Because right now, if you try to cross there, you kind of are taking your life in your own hands. And during the streetscape, as it evolves, there are plans in place to have a temporary crossing in place to start implementing the safety increases in the area. Next slide. Our biggest challenge immediately is our budget, and I suspect it was the same with all the other business districts. We are working towards a deficit in our fund balance. So we have been using our fund balance for the cost of the parks and recreation services. And past this fiscal year into next fiscal year, we will be running into a deficit. So as we are looking at our budget this year, Mayor, and we're meeting at our next meeting, we're looking at ways to avoid that or to reestablish more funds into that budget for moving forward, especially in the years that we start the construction in our business district on the streetscape. It would probably not be in everybody's best interest to have any kind of parks and recreation going on there at that time because there'll be so much going on. So we're looking at all that as a business district and coming up with proposals at our next meeting to see how we can fix that. In our area, with being the smallest business district and the one with the most professionals and medical professionals in that, the business license, the revenues from business licenses are not the same as in other districts. So we are looking at a way, I'm working with Eric on that as well, to see what we can do to kind of offset that, since we have that section of our professionals that don't pay into a business license there. And that's pretty much it. So subject to your questions.
Yeah, does anyone have questions?
Can I make a comment?
Please.
I just wanted to commend Heidi and the commission for their patience and their perseverance and tenacity with the streetscape project. I know that's a long time coming through, and still a few years to go, but at least it's got a real end to it. It looks like here coming up. So congratulations on really getting that across the to-do line.
Yep, thank you. It's been a long time. I was pregnant when we started this, and my daughter's gonna be a senior next year. So I was like, oh, I hope this finally comes to fruition.
Okay, I knew that there was perseverance involved. I wasn't quite sure about that level, so.
Exactly. So we were so excited about it though. So,
Well, thank you so much for serving. And as you probably know, sometimes Crossroads is the hardest for us to get members to serve on. And so
Right.
your continued service is greatly appreciated.
Yep.
All right.
It's an exciting district. There's so much going on and it's great to watch and the street tape's just gonna make it.
Yeah, it's gonna be one party
more
when it's
exciting.
done, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so much fun. So thank you so much.
Thanks for your
All
work.
right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next on our agenda is the pool master planning process. And Scott will magically appear momentarily.
Good evening.
Oh.
Wow, that voice that just comes out of nowhere. Welcome, Scott. Please get us started here.
Thank you all.
Oh, there
Want
he
to talk
is.
to you tonight a little bit about the Aquatic Center Master Plan. Eric, if you can skip to the next slide for me, please. We're going to review the community input from the first meetings, review the online survey responses, some of the initial concepts that our design team has put together, along with the capital costs on those estimates. And then we'll review some of the community input that we got off the second public meeting. So we have had two public meetings. The first one's in December 1st of last year, and then January 26th of this year. And for those of you playing along at home, if you go to the city's website, webstergrovesmo.com, and scroll all the way to the very bottom of the first page, there's a section called Projects and Community Spotlights, and there's an Aquatic Center Master Plan button there. And you can get all the info from those two public meetings, as well as the survey, full survey data, and a lot of other good information there. So the survey results, if you click on the survey link off the web page, you'll see each individual question, kind of like you see in the lower right-hand corner there. It'll detail out the question, tell you how many survey responses we got for that individual question, and then give you a bar graph or some sort of graph on the answers for those questions. But we had 1,071 responses to this survey, which was open for about 3 weeks, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm ecstatic about that number of responses. That exceeded my expectations by quite a bit. Out of the respondents' data, about 75% visited the Aquatic Center last year. 80% came for recreational swimming. 65% have children in the household. 58% were current pass holders, meaning the rest of them were all daily pass holders or came with a camp group or something like that. And about 90% of them resided in Webster Groves. A couple of the big ticket items that we got from the survey, folks really like both the shallow water for the young kids as well as the deeper water for lap swim and diving. I like our aquatic programmings. They want us to keep those things. There was quite a few responses for indoor pools, some sort of indoor pool option to go along with our current outdoor pools. And about 70% of the respondents indicated that they would be in favor of some sort of small tax increase if needed to fund construction of the new aquatic centers. So as we were meeting with our consultant after the first meeting, taking into account all of the survey data we got, we gave them a few things that we wanted to make sure that they focused on as they were putting together our concept plans. We wanted to make sure that we had plenty of deck seating. That's one of the issues that we have a little bit now. Sometimes it feels like there's not chairs to be found or places to sit, especially when we have camp groups that come in, with 100 campers at a time, or when we have a swim meet and there's several hundred lap swimmers in there, all trying to get around the pool at the same time, as well as parents and spectators. Want to make sure we had good shade structures for all of our folks that want to sit in the shade like myself. Our guest services area really needs to be updated. Our computers are outside in the St. Louis summer heat and humidity, and they don't really love that. As well as our staff that's sitting there using those computers would also love to be inside some air conditioning. So updating those guest services area, better traffic flow with people coming in and out, specifically people trying to sneak in. It's a pretty wide open area right now, so we need some better traffic control there. All the green infrastructure that we can possibly get, we're looking for, including solar panels, higher efficiency pumps and motors, and filtration units that use less water for backwash and things of that nature. Anything that we can do to be cost savings on that green infrastructure, as well as just being better stewards of our environment. And then really trying to not drastically increase our operating expenses. Some of the new pools that are out there have very large lazy rivers that require, maybe 10 guards just for the lazy rivers, or things of that nature. So we're trying to really keep it in an area that's similar to our current guard staffing needs and other operating expenses. So with that, they came up with a couple different concepts for us, which we showed at that January meeting. The first concept is shown here on the right-hand side, and this is overlaid where our current pool is. So if you see down in the right-hand corner, that little building that says Earth Bunny sculpture, that's actually the entry to the aquatic center. Above that, the blue big building is the gymnasium. The white roof is the fitness center. And then the very top of that circle, the blue building, is the ice rink building. So the lap lane is pretty much in the same location that it's in. It is a 8-lane, 25-yard lap pool. Does not have a separate dive tank. The pool is one single body, 4,800 square feet. It's got a couple slides. It's got children's playground, lots of shade structures and such. And this one was the cheapest option that came in at $6.5 million. The next concept is a little bit larger. Comes in at about $8.2 million total. Again, 8-lane, 25-yard one way, 25-meter the other way, if we chose to put those in. Some people like to swim the meters. It's a little bit longer than the yardage, but most competitive meets and stuff all use 25 yards. Still one body of water, 6,800 square foot, a couple slides, children's playground. This one does have a vortex, which is the little circle that's just above the slide towers. That is kind of similar to a lazy river. If you go in there and pick your feet up, it's high flow water. So it'll kind of spin you around in that circle, probably a 20-foot interior type of thing. So kids really like going in there and getting kind of spun around a little bit. Next concept, excuse me, comes in about $9.6 million. Again, with an 8-lane lap lane without a separate dive tank. A little bit larger pool again, 7,700 square foot. This one does have an actual lazy river on it. That lazy river is probably 2.5 to 3 times the size of our current channel that we have, which isn't, we currently don't really have a lazy river. We have a current channel. So this one's about 3 times as big as that. So it'll be a little more fun. Wouldn't have floatables or anything like that we would offer. It would just be something that you could go in and kind of swim through and float through on your own without any kind of tubes or anything, but would allow for morning lap channel walking where you walk against the current for fitness and things of that nature. So we showed those 3 concepts, and then after the public input that we got, we actually put in a 4th concept, which is the next slide. The 4th concept is a little bit more expensive again, comes in just under $12 million. This one pretty much mirrors what we have currently. So it's 8 lanes, 25 yards, has a separate dive tank for diving boards and for dive meets. Total recreation volume of water is about, or not volume, square footage is 9,300. That includes both of the toddler pool and the middle recreation pool. Again, children's play feature in the toddler area, multiple water slides, and it also would include a spray ground in the current location where the spray ground is, right underneath the fitness center. So, and then there was a 5th concept, which after the first set of public meetings, we heard a lot about some sort of indoor option. To create a separate indoor facility that just hosted a competition pool, but was a full year-round building all by itself, would be a little over $12 million. So The concept that we came up with instead of that is a convertible type pool. This concept could be added on to any of the other 4 options that we have over the current outdoor lap lanes. It would come in just about $3.8 million. As you can see in the 2 pictures, the first one is inside the pool looking up when the roof would be closed. The second one would be outside the pool when the roof would be open. So that roof's called a dino dome. It's basically has 4 sections. The 2 middle sections slide out over the top of the 2 end sections so that it would give you kind of an indoor-outdoor convertible option. To make this a feasible plan, we would need to add locker room spaces up by this pool. We would not use the current bathhouse and locker rooms because you're too far away from where the competition pool would be. So people would access in through the main recreation complex building, come through our main front desk to check in and out, and then they would exit out onto the pool deck. Currently, where the concession stand area is located right now, they'd go out somewhere around that area, go into a hallway, which would lead them to new sets of locker rooms that would be beside the ice rink building. And then they would enter into this convertible building. So the input that we got from the second public input meeting, some of the main things that we heard were, the biggest one that I heard was, don't plan for something smaller than we have now. Like I said, we originally showed those 3 first options, and the residents and users that came to that meeting really weren't excited about a lot of those because they were smaller. There was concerns about only having 2 bodies of water instead of 3, and the mixing of, teens and toddlers and middle-aged kids being in the same play pool and not being separated. The families with toddlers really wanted a separation there. They do love how the current Webster pool, unlike a lot of the other municipal pools around the area, is completely wide open and you can see your kids from anywhere on the deck. They like that concept. They would hope that we will see that again in the future pools. One member commented the reason so many people filled out the survey is that even though they may not use the pools, that they support the whole community. And his response was that, he no longer has kids in the school district, but he still likes to vote for those bond issues and stuff too. And he thinks that we'll get the same kind of results for the aquatic center because it is a real community feel to it. Some of the big questions about the indoor pool option would be, where do you find lifeguards? Are you not going to be open till 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Because most of our lifeguards are high school and college students. Probably 80% of them are high school kids and 20% college kids. So where would we find lifeguards that could be there from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.? That would be a struggle potentially for us. And how will all this be funded were some of the main questions that they were asking. So we still have some more public input that we need to do. Hoping to get out a balancing act survey this week to the community to acquire more input on those 5 different concepts, what the community would like to see us build, how much they'd be willing to fund, knowing those capital expenses. We don't yet have operating expenses built into all of those yet, but that will be something that we'll be putting into the final plan, master plan, once we get it designed. So the timeline for the final master plan is, right now we're going to get this citizen input. That'll be open for maybe 2 weeks, and then it'll take them our consultants another couple weeks to put together the final plan, and then we will come back to council again to share that final input. So I'm happy to take any questions you might have. I know I threw a lot of information at you right there. Again, a lot of that information, more detailed, is on the city's website, the presentations that we gave at the actual public meetings and such.
All right, questions for Scott?
Scott, I have one, this is Emerson. I noticed on the input from the citizens that don't plan for a smaller day than we have now. So which concept mirrors the capacity that we at least have now or more?
Concept number 4, which is the one that comes in at right about $12 million, is basically replacing all of the features and size that we have now.
So nothing over that capacity, but meeting the capacity that we have now.
Yes, sir.
Scott, would you be able to extend the season for swimming, you know, in the evenings without doing an indoor facility, considering it does stay warm sometimes until the middle of October or so?
There have been a few pools that have done that through the years. Maplewood put in heaters in their pools when they built the Maplewood Family Aquatic Center 10, 15 years ago. They ran them for the first year or two, and it was pretty expensive to heat that body of water to keep it at a temperature that was reasonable for lap swimmers. City of Clayton has historically stayed open past Labor Day, but they have not done so the last year and are not planning to do so this year, mostly as a cost concern and also in finding lifeguards to be able to staff and run it. So yes, it is possible. It's not something that is done widely throughout the St. Louis region.
And would having an indoor facility make a difference in cost or finding staff?
Having an indoor facility would definitely have an impact on both of those. I think after school, we could probably find staff. The indoor pool wouldn't take very many guards to operate. You're talking 2 to 3 guards at a time to operate it, maybe less depending on what's happening in there. If it's a swim team in there, you could maybe get away with just 1 lifeguard. Operating expense wise, it's going to be costly. There are not any indoor pools that make money. They all run at a deficit. I made that comment in the first public meeting, and it didn't go over well. And so I went and did even more research and contacted all the municipal pools, some of the high school pools in the area, all the way up to Mizzou's Aquatic Center. And every single pool that responded to my request runs at a deficit, most of them in a couple $100,000 a year deficit range. The highest one brought in about 85% cost recovery, and the lowest was about 29% cost recovery on their indoor pools. So something to be thinking about as we plan for this is where would that additional couple $100,000 come from on top of additional membership fees or daily fees or rentals if we were to build an indoor pool.
And Scott, that indoor pool, is that, so once that's closed and around there, is that completely heated? I mean, when you're looking at that, the ends still look like they're open. That's almost like a greenhouse.
It would be like a greenhouse. It would be completely enclosed. It would have heat in it, and actually it has more ventilation than it does heat. With all that glass in there, it actually heats up quite a bit like a greenhouse. And so you have to exhaust some of the hot air that gets trapped inside there. But it would be completely heated, and the water would be warm. You would put a heater on the water to run it throughout the winter months.
Scott, I was wondering, Webster University has an indoor pool, right?
They do.
So is that used year round? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at, is there any avenue to partner with Webster University in their use of the indoor pool, or using some of our money to update it so we could, so our residents could also use it?
We invited all the schools to the first public meeting and had some of those initial conversations about would they be interested in partnering with us, not so much us necessarily partnering with them like your question is. Their pool is good for recreational swimming. It's got lap lanes. It's not very deep and it's not very big. So it does not meet the needs of competitive swim teams for the high schools or the college level to be able to host meets, or it's really not even big enough for them to practice in very well. I believe it's a 6 lap pool. I'm not 100% certain about that. And I also believe that the reason it is a little shallower than today's standards are is they had some subsurface issues, like many of the areas in Webster have, when you're trying to build something, the subsoil is not always the greatest. So I think they went a little shallower than the current standards would be, but our pool was currently shallower than the current standards would be as well.
I'm not sure if like Webster University or Nearix or Webster High has a swim team, but if they do, where do they practice?
So both the high schools do have a swim team. Webster High practices with us for a few weeks right at the end of the summer season, and then they go practice at other schools. They swim a little bit at Webster U, but mostly I think they go to Forest Park. I could be wrong there. Neritz Hall also has a swim team, as well as both schools are starting water polo programs as well, and are trying to find space for those. I know Neritz is partnering with Ladue and swimming at Ladue with their water polo team. I'm not sure where Webster High's water polo is trying to swim at.
So there's at least, it looks like on the horizon, at least if we were to go with a closed concept of potential revenue partnerships with some of the local institutions.
We certainly had those initial conversations, and I think there would be some consideration there. I think the schools would be interested in that. How much, we didn't get it that deep into it, and whether that would be just capital expense or also operating expense, since we would be talking about that deficit each year. Yes, there'd be revenue coming in off those rentals, but it's still not going to cover the full operating expense for the utilities and the staffing and everything else that goes in along with that.
How about in regards to sorry, my mind just went blank. Yep, never mind.
Want us to come back to?
Yeah.
Emily, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this has already been talked about. So I had like a little list, but one of them was, the school districts and municipalities nearby. And has anybody said, yes, we do want to partner? And then would they be involved in this design process if they were? And would they be interested in just paying, like a usage fee for the teams, or also investing in the capital part of it with us? So that was one that we've kind of already talked about. The other was the size and, which options would, meet what we have. It sounds like it's option 4 right now, or 4 and 5 if we wanted to go with an enclosed version. And the other one is, I know that the pool gets closed sometimes for sanitary reasons. And I didn't know if that was an issue that was being like, hey, we have a solution for that with the new pool, and here's how we're going to handle that. Or if that's just the nature of having a pool and there's really no fix for that.
We will certainly have better sanitation and water quality in the new pool. We're 25 plus years old now. We've updated some of those systems, but the new filtration units out there are just better. You're still going to have what we commonly call code browns, and depending on what type of code brown that may be, determines how long the pool is shut down, whether it's solid or liquid. So there will be times where it's shut down. I mean, it's gross, but it's part of operating the pool. So it happens.
Yeah.
Use swim diapers, parents. Please use swim diapers.
And then I guess my last question was just like kind of a sustainability and infrastructure thing. I know we've talked about the ice rink before, and when we have like a warm thing and a cold thing, that is there any kind of symbiosis that we can do between those two big structures with like heat exchange or some kind of economy of scale or anything like that?
That is certainly something that I've been kind of kicking around with the ice rink guys. I would like to use it more than they would. They're really concerned about using some of those synergies where you can dump the heat off of you're sucking heat out of water to make ice. And could we then dump that heat into the pool to warm the pool? I think we can. They're really scared about adding another system onto that, because if the more complicated it gets, if you break it, then, they lose the ice, and it takes us 3 weeks to take out the ice and put new ice in. And we lose all that revenue in the time, but it is options that we're exploring. The filtration is one of the biggest things. It'll be way greener. It'll save us a ton of water. The way those get backwashed and clean the filters is, right now it's hundreds to thousands of gallons to backwash those systems each week. The new systems are 5 gallons a day to backwash. So it's updated system. So we're definitely going to be looking to put those things in.
And are the concepts that we have, are they still getting tweaked with public engagement?
So we can still have the option to tweak stuff if there's things council would like to see. If there's things that the residents come back and say that they really want to see more of or less of, we can still put that together in our final master plan. And then the master plan is still just a guiding concept and a principle of what we will be looking to do. Just because we come back in April or May with the final master plan doesn't mean that's exactly what we will build and open in 2 years or whatever that time is. We still got to go through the full construction plan process, and some of that can change once you really start getting into other soil condition factors. Hopefully this cost increases that keep escalating so quickly every year, hopefully that'll turn around, so we might be able to get more stuff for less money, as opposed to the bad thing. If it keeps going higher inflation, then we get less stuff for less money or more money. So yes, to answer your question, there are still options that we can change and put in there.
Great, thank you.
Scott, you brought up something, the master plan. I was just wondering, how about parking? Has that been discussed in this? The idea of additional parking, or do we have sufficient parking even if we were to build at the size that we currently have?
We have not really looked at parking in this plan as of yet. The original concepts that we put out there came in with less capacity usage, which would mean less parking. The concept 4, which is about the same as we currently have, would be the same amount of parking that we currently have. Most of the time we're pretty good on parking down there. I hate to just put in more and more parking. We do share a lot of parking between the Hickson property and the rec center. So as long as those joint usage keep continuing the way they have been in the past, I think we have enough parking total on that property to suffice for both of us.
So Scott, I think the one question I think I have, especially in regards to the size of the pool, is what do you think we need? Do we stay at the current capacity, or do we decrease, or do we need an increase?
I do not think we need to increase. On average, we've been seeing about 1,000 people per day come in. That's your historical average over the last few years. Spread that 1,000 people over 8 hours. You don't have 700 or 800 people there at one time. Our current capacity is 707 people at any time. So I don't think you need to go bigger than that. The residents have spoken so far and said they don't want to see us go any smaller. I think you could maybe go a little bit smaller and have better layouts that could still accommodate as many people in the water. To me, I don't think the water is all that crowded most of the time. I do think the pool deck feels crowded at times. At times I feel like you can't find seating, but that's particularly between noon and 2:30, 3 o'clock maybe. After that, it really starts slowing down and it feels much more open. And a lot of that also is determining about how many camps we have in there. When Camp Weebagee comes with 130 campers 2 days a week and they get there at noon, obviously that extra 130 people impact the usage there.
And I promise this is my last question. Though Sarah, I'm sorry, Emily Spurred refreshed my memory about the question I wanted to ask. When we were redoing the tennis courts, we partnered with I think Neerix and Webster U in order to get a grant. Is there any grant potentials for this pool if we were to partner with anyone, or even go it solo?
Yes. So I plan on applying for 2 municipal park grants for this project. Our maximum right now is $525,000 for each grant cycle. So a little over $1 million. I'm confident we will get that $1 million worth of grants. So you can take that off the price tag. If all 3 of the schools, Webster High School, Webster University, and Neerix Hall, all joined in on the tennis court project, you can get additional points towards your grant, which makes you get the grant more likely, which will already get it. But it only counts towards public institutions. So the university and their halls money wouldn't count, but Webster High School, if they chose to join, would get us additional points towards the grant, but it doesn't get us any more dollars of the grant.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Scott.
Are there other questions? Scott, I do have one question about the plans, and it may just be the nature of where we are in the process. One of the things that we do have right now is actual grass areas around the pool, which when the concrete is, 100 and whatever degrees, I know those grassy areas are used. Are there plans to do that? Or are we talking about actual deck everywhere?
We haven't gotten that deep into it yet.
Okay.
We will have, our goal is to have a little less landscaping interior, probably not as many potted plants and things like that take hands-on watering every day. But we do want to certainly still have some green space or soft spaces or surfaces that aren't hot concrete, that may be some sort of artificial turf or something like that still appears green and is a little softer and not quite as hot. But we haven't got that deep into the weeds yet.
All right. Any other questions?
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah, how about you? Would you like to ask some questions?
It's okay. I know we're running low on time, and I can kind of take mine offline and ask Scott a couple things outside. So.
We do have a couple of minutes, so.
Well, I was mostly just curious about if the roof option that covers the lap pool, if that will impact kind of capacity of the deck, or if it has other kind of impacts on the other water features at all, just because it's hard for me to picture that having like a zero impact, right? Because it seems kind of large.
It would alter traffic flow and some visibility. You do have a building there all the time. So even in the summertime, when we open that roof, both ends are still a building. So it's glass, you can see through it, but it will affect traffic flow. It will take up some deck space for sure, just the structure of that building. But you'll be able to sit inside it as well as outside of it. So I don't think it'll be a huge impact on seating, but it'll be visually different.
And it won't cover the other features though, right? It'll just be the lap pool.
It is, yes. It would be a huge building if you tried to cover all three pools. So currently we're just looking at covering the lap pool and dive area.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Thanks, Sarah. Scott, thank you very much. I mean, I know we're not there yet, but I know you've put in a lot of efforts and I appreciate that. And I think I speak for everybody here when I say so. So thank you for this.
You're welcome.
All right. For our work session, we need to make some decisions about boards and commission assignments or appointments, and then we will wrap this work session up, I believe. So we, Charles Janicki, thank you, has applied for the Board of Adjustment as an alternate member. Would we like to appoint him?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Frank Romano is the Old Webster Business District Advisory Commission.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Madam
see
Mayor.
nods everywhere.
Madam
And
Mayor.
then for Sustainability Commission, both John Hickey.
Sorry, just to the old Webster question. We have 2 vacancies listed, but the council did intend with the board and commission update to reduce the number of members there.
Okay.
So I'm curious, we certainly can make the appointment, but I would think we intended next meeting to have that ordinance back up for you all to act on.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to hold on to that one for one more meeting. It wouldn't affect being able to, obviously could sit at the next meeting if we're going to go forward with that reduction.
Does anyone have any thoughts? I'm going to suggest that we go forward in part because we don't have, as I understand it, restaurant representation currently on that advisory board.
I support that.
And then just decrease with attrition.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so thank you, Eric, for bringing that up, though. That's an important point. So Sustainability Commission, John Hickey and Andrea Parton. We have 2 vacancies. We can accommodate both of them, and that will be for the first time, maybe, that we have all 9 of the Sustainability Commission appointed.
I do have a question. Is that all of the applications for sustainability? Do we have others?
I just got one this afternoon.
Okay. Okay, I was just curious. 'Cause
Okay,
I wanted to make sure.
all right, so let's
There
start with
weren't-
John. Would we like John to be appointed?
Yes.
Would we like Andrea to be appointed?
Yes.
Okay. Last item for appointments is Julia Leaning, who is the owner of Descendant. Was here before us to apply for, was appointed to the Business Development Commission. And she is also willing to serve on the Crossroads Special Advisory Board. We didn't ask her to come back in for another interview since we just saw her. Are we okay appointing her to Crossroads as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that does it. We have a full house. I wish it was for us, but we know it's really for you, Tom. But we're going to take just like a 3-minute break and then we'll come back and begin our regular meeting. Wow, the applause started for you before the meeting even started, Tom. All right, let's call this regular meeting of the Webster Grove City Council for March 7th, 2023 to order. Let's see, where am I doing? We welcome questions, ideas, and comments from persons in attendance, or if you are on Zoom, you may use the raise your hand function. And you will be called on through that process and be allowed to speak. But that will be on both in person and on Zoom. Once you are recognized by myself, that's when you may have your time to speak. We ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes in order to complete the agenda within a reasonable time. And that comments concerning items not on the agenda should be made during remarks of visitors and community, which is near the beginning of our agenda. And please note that council members do not respond in session to public comments, but certainly often will speak with you after our meeting. We are going to start with the roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Bliss. Here. Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Here.
All right, our first order of business is the recognition of Library Director Tom Cooper. Tom, I'm going to come down there and I'm going to make you stand next to me while I read all the great things about you. And then council will come and have a picture together. All right. Good to see you. And I'm going to use this microphone so that all your fans on Zoom can hear too. All right, whereas Tom Cooper began his employment as the Webster Groves Library Director in August of 2005 and was instrumental in many wonderful and exciting endeavors throughout his tenure. Tom came to the city with a BA in Literature and Language from Webster University and a Master's in Library and Information Science from Mizzou, along with a consistent, cheerful, and upbeat personality. One of Tom's biggest accomplishments was educating the public on the tax levy increase that brought about the library improvements and enhanced the operating revenues, which included the successful addition to the library, which doubled the facility's size and renovated the existing building. And whereas under Tom's direction, the reading garden was added to the library's landscape, and he established relationships with civic organizations in our community and improved the library's standing as an important civic organization. Tom established a program to digitize the Kate Moody collection and to research and house other aspects of Webster Grove's history. He established an art gallery in the library and instituted new programs, including book club, outreach to homebound individuals, Irish salon, and he set up the library as a passport acceptance facility. Whereas Tom always kept the library up to date with cutting edge technology, including ebooks and working with the library consortiums. He was innovative during the pandemic, keeping the library patron employees safe while continuing to allow library users the opportunity to continue reading and learning. After more than 17 years of service to the library and our city, Tom will now have the time to pursue other interests and opportunities and to spend more time with his family. Now we're to the good part. I get to declare things. Now, therefore, I, Laura Arnold, Mayor of the City of Webster Groves, on behalf of the City Council, wish to thank and honor Tom Cooper for his many years of service to our community and do hereby proclaim Friday, March 10th, 2023 as Tom Cooper Day in the city of Webster Groves. Come on in, everybody. They were imbalanced. Thank you, Dan. Yeah. I understand travels.
Also, I live in.
Thank you very much. We really do appreciate all of it. All right, and while all of you are here to honor Tom, you're welcome to stay, but we also understand if you'd like to go ahead and depart this evening. We're going to move on to our second item. If you have a remark that you'd like to make here during the community and visitors time for remarks, you need to fill out a card. I have one card, but if there are others, please, they're available on the table there. The speaker card I have is from Andrew Prinster. If you would like to come forward. Then if you'll state your name and the usual stuff for the record. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Prinster. I'm a captain here, City of Webster Groves Fire Department. Also here tonight as the shop steward in regards to the vote about our CBA. The union has been negotiating this contract with the city to renew our collective bargaining agreement. And during the almost 10 months of negotiating, the objective of the city has been to reduce staffing on one of the fire trucks. They're using an unprecedented time of budget constraints due to a pandemic, forced early retirements due to vaccine mandates from the city, a military deployment, career-ending back injury vacancy, multiple vacancies from members leaving for other fire districts, ongoing disputes with the city, and a member receiving cancer treatment as reference. The union acknowledges that this was a burden on the city's finances and repeatedly addressed these concerns with creativity and flexibility throughout negotiations. None of these measures has been satisfactory to the city. And accompanying the last offer made by the city, they're claiming that the union is bargaining in bad faith. This assertion is offensive and will only further drive a wedge between the firefighters and city leadership. This also following the claim that the union's grievances and expressed concern about the city's decision not to borrow a fire truck for nearly a week and an ambulance when needed was divisive bargaining tactics. The union is simply attempting to maintain the current staffing levels that comply with National Fire Protection Agency standards and provide the level of service we pride ourselves on and that the residents should expect. This is consistent with a pattern of disregard that the city has shown towards the CBA since the arrival of Dr. Peoples. She was not the city manager at the time of the original agreement and has attempted to exploit any section deemed vague enough to change, even when the intent was clear by both sides at the time of negotiation. This includes a financial audit that resulted in the city attempting to change the structure of pay, resulting in lower wages for the majority of the department. This issue was challenged with a grievance and request for arbitration and ultimately settled. Fire department members have also gone 18 months without pay increases because the city decided to eliminate performance pay that was granted in January. This issue has also been through arbitration and a ruling is forthcoming. Step raises, which are given in July, have been withheld due to ongoing negotiations, and once again, arbitration has been requested. The city's been claiming throughout this process that they simply cannot afford what we currently have and the minimal attempts requested during bargaining to stay relevant in a highly competitive marketplace. Even though recent budget presentations show almost all revenue outpacing projections and still have ARP funds to use. I have a lot more, I'm sorry. But we're trying to make this work and we want to staff our trucks.
Start. I mean, I would rather you finish because, I mean, this is our chance as council to hear from the fire department. So-
Yeah, I would love that chance.
All right, does council agree to waiving the time limit?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, please finish your statement.
So with those budget requests or the concerns, it appears that revenues are outpacing projections and ARP funds are still available to use. The use tax that was passed in April was sold as providing for public services and claims that revenues could be used for 3 additional police officers or firefighters. These revenues seem to also be outpacing all projections. While voters approved this under these explicit claims, as of this writing, the police have a hiring freeze on vacant positions and the city's attempting to lower our minimum staffing on the trucks. How can you claim that you're using that money the way that you said you would? Oh, excuse me. You've all said recently that public safety is a top priority. And, you know, the approval of the $1 million fire truck and the firehouse, we are grateful for. But those things were, you know, deteriorating to the point where it was just not fiscally responsible to keep fixing them. It's simply the cost of doing business. So all this to me begs the question as to the motivation of those who wish to exploit the gray areas of a contract and read between the lines to use it to their advantage. And then to claim that those wishing to maintain the highest levels of staffing to ensure efficiency and safety of rescuers and residents are the ones bargaining in bad faith. The firefighters are here, always ready to serve, and will hope to continue to do so without being forced to sacrifice our capabilities due to questionable claims of budget constraints, power struggles, and spite. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that we have at least 1 or 2 on Zoom who would like to speak, so please.
I have no hands up there.
Oh.
Put 'em down.
No,
Oh,
there's one.
No, there's one.
Yeah.
Mr. Goldsman is ready.
All right,
Just unmute.
Mr. Golterman, if you will unmute, you are now ready to speak.
Well, thank you very much. I want to congratulate Tom Cooper for his service to Webster Groves. The importance of libraries go back for me to when we lived on Euclid Avenue next to Stick School, William Stick School. And my dad took me over there when I was, I don't know, very young and introduced me to a series of French and Indian War books by Joseph Altschuler. And ever since then, I've been kind of addicted to libraries until I went into film and video and other things like that. I just want to share a moment or two with, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just in general, the importance of historic tax credits. And again, I will draw a parallel if I may. Getting Kiel Opera House on the National Register in February of 2000 garnered 10 years later nearly $60 million toward the restoration. That was a combination of state and federal historic tax credits, some other tax credits, maybe brownfields, and that led directly to the 30 million in bonds. So that listing on the register pretty much paid for the restoration of Kiel Opera House and turned a zero value asset into a $400 million asset and catalyst. And I would urge you to get the Ozark Theater on the National Register as quickly as possible. I'm too tired to do it. I'm not going to do it, but I would suggest somebody do it for whatever future it holds, Mayor. I think that there is a process. I can, kind of recommend who does a good document if someone decides to do that. My final comment is that silence is the enemy of all preservationists. It just simply is. When you don't know what's going on for whatever reason, normally things are happening. So I would urge some transparency when you know what's going on, to share that with your citizens, because I think you have across the street an asset that can generate tax revenue consistently over the full year and not just 3 months. Thank you very much for this time. I'm so glad I didn't have to come out tonight in the cold and could just chat with you this way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other hands raised? All right, we will then move on to new business. Do council members, city attorney, city manager, anyone with new business? No, all right. We will move on to our unfinished business then. Councilwoman Hickson Shepherd, could you call for the third reading of bill number 9216, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the third and final reading of bill number 9216.
Second.
Bill 9216, third and final reading. An ordinance granting an amendment to a conditional use permit to Webster Hills United Methodist Church to permit a child daycare use on an approximately 1 acre tract of land in an existing structure at 698 West Lockwood Avenue in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district, and repealing ordinance 6658 and 8411 and matters related thereto.
Is there any discussion? Right, let's have the vote, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold.
Yes. Right, Councilmember Alexander, could you call for the third reading of bill number 9217, please?
Yes, I would like to call for the third and final reading of bill number 9217 and its subsequent adoption.
Second.
Bill 9217, third and final reading. An ordinance of the city of Webster Groves, Missouri, amending chapter 53 zoning by amending uses related to marijuana and marijuana infused products in code sections 53.159 and 53.192 and definitions in sections 53.020 and matters related thereto.
Is there any discussion? All right, let's call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to new business. Our first item of new business is resolution 2023-04 on the municipal judge process. Councilmember Franklin, could you call for the resolution?
Do you want us to do the presentation, Mayor? or not?
I was going to let him call for the resolution and then you can do the presentation and we'll have any discussion.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to call for the adoption of resolution number 2023-04.
Second.
All right, we do have a presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members. Eric Peterson, Assistant City Manager. The municipal court is an item that the council has not had to deal with often and in many years. Judge Whitney, under state law, under the rules of the Supreme Court and statute, is required to retire at the age of 75. All municipal court judges are. Judge Whitney's birthday happens to be the 4th of July. So July 4th of this coming year, Judge Whitney will no longer be eligible to sit as the municipal judge for Webster Groves. He has served in this position since 1997. So now we must engage in a process for appointment. And this is under the charter is your process as the city council, hence why we are here today. And I'm sorry about the mouse here. Let me get this down there and we'll move forward. So there's some requirements for the judgeship, for the municipal judge. Per our charter, section 9.2, they must be a resident and elector of the city. So here in the city as a resident and a registered to vote. They must be a licensed member of the bar, admitted to practice law in the state of Missouri. And they've had to actively practice for not less than 3 years per our charter. So fresh out of law school, lawyer is not eligible under our charter. The appointment is to a term for 4 years. That's your initial appointment. I certainly would let the city attorney opine. I don't think the city has ever reappointed the judge. I think Judge Whitney continued upon that term beyond the 4 years. So, but it is a set term. So the council does have the opportunity within every 4 years to make an appointment should they wish under the charter. So we have proposed an appointment process, and there are three pieces of items that we've given you. The proposed process plan, which is Exhibit A to the resolution, and then a very draft job description, which we've created. There is not a job description created for the municipal judge at this point in the city. And then also just a copy of the current employment application, the very basic employment application we all use here at the city. So as we talk about process, we have proposed from city leadership to you a process that's within this resolution that we would essentially open applications at the end of this week for about just under a month through April 7th. And then we have proposed, given what we believe might be a rather large pool of candidates, could be a small pool, but could be large, that you appoint a subcommittee rather than try to find all of you available for interviews in a week. And then allowed for a week in April 17th, sort of a concentrated time of a subcommittee to do a first round and to bring finalists, whether that be 2 or 3. Certainly, again, your process, you can change this how you wish to the council for interviews. The important point that we did talk about with Judge Whitney that he had when he was appointed judge was a period of overlap. So that the new judge would have an opportunity to sit with the current judge, sort of see operations of courts. So we have targeted that the council would appoint a judge on May 16th, giving then 3 active court nights, the second one in May, and then the 2 meetings in June of the court for the judge to sit with the new judge to sit with Judge Whitney prior to his retirement, and also to work with our court staff on just matters involved with the day-to-day operations of the court. So I would encourage you, if you want to change the process, certainly feel free. But again, we've heard the wisdom of that overlapping coming from the judicial community. In terms of promotion, we did lay out some things that Ms. Starkey would work on, and along with our HR folks, obviously, we do have our own media channels here at the city, looking in the application period through the Friday page, the Inside Webster Grove publication, all of our social media. And then we did discuss taking out specific ads for this position within the Webster Kirkwood Times for the community. And then obviously going through and being very transparent throughout the selection in terms of the process and naming of interviews and finalists and such. And then post-selection, obviously doing a profile and sort of introducing the community to the new judge. What I didn't include in this, but is certainly part of it, is also our plans that we will bring to you all to recognize Judge Whitney and thank him for his service and such. So wasn't part of the new judge appointment, so I didn't want to get tangled up tonight. So there's a lot there to be talked about. The discussion for you all in this, really what we need direction on is, does this time frame and the process that we have laid out for you in the resolution work? Are you comfortable with subcommittee use? A smaller group of you all doing initial interviews? Are there things in the application that you want us to ask? Judicial philosophy questions, an essay, things you want us to take out of a normal application for city positions? Is there anything about posting materials you want us to change? And then also, I just highlighted the current salary for the judgeship. Should we advertise that salary, or do you want to leave that unadvertised and come back and review it? You set the salary by ordinance. And so that is been Judge Whitney's salary. Every year it goes, if there's a COLA applied, it is applied to his salary as well. So
Is that competitive in the market?
that is competitive in market according to the compensation and classification study. Yes.
All right, let's do these one at a time. Time frame and process. Are there any questions, or are we okay with the process?
I'm
Yes.
okay with the process.
All right, I see lots of nodding heads. Subcommittee use. According to the time frame, that first meeting in April, will appoint a 3-member subcommittee to do the initial review of applications. We good with that process?
Yes.
Okay, application questions, any additions, subtractions?
I haven't looked at them, but there's standard employment application questions.
That's correct. Yeah. So the reason we brought this up, we didn't know if there were things you wanted to ask particular to a judgeship or, that you felt like shouldn't be asked. So.
Like open-ended questions
Right,
or-
if you wanted an essay with application or such, or an open-ended question, again, I just came up with the example, what's your judicial philosophy, things like that, so.
I mean, it would be nice to know like why they want to apply for the position. Maybe that's in here somewhere, but this looks mostly like it's just data fields.
Yes.
So something open about, their judicial philosophy or why they want to apply or what what
So-
Neil thinks might be.
So no, I
appropriate.
understand what you're saying. And it's a good idea to get a sense of who he or she is that may be applying. I went through the process in 97 and I finished second. And Jim and I are great friends and have been friends ever since, but it's one of those situations where we were interviewed by the panel. It came down to a group of finalists and then we were interviewed by the panel and then the appointments occurred. But the questions, it's appropriate to say, why do you want to do it? Again, and I think that you'll find that there are a number of people who want to do it just because they believe they're serving their community and the money is really, while not insignificant, is never the driving purpose on something like this. I also encourage strongly that you do have overlap because Jim Whitney has truly been a stabilizing force all these years. We haven't heard much about our municipal court because he runs it well. And so again, that's exactly the same thing that, again, you want to make sure is there. Oddly, the judge is the arbiter of many, many problems in your municipality that you never see or hear. The police see them all the time. And sometimes this becomes literally the place of last resort when you can't resolve the problems anymore. But Jim just had a way about dealing with it. So, I mean, going back to the process, I think it's a good idea to listen, to talk to people and sort of decide whether or not this is a person who's going to be your representative. There's also a statistic out there that says most people, the vast majority of people, the only contact they will ever have with their municipal government is the city judge. So again, he is truly, or she is truly the ambassador for all of you. So I think it's a good idea to, having a subcommittee is a great idea and sort of narrow it down. I think that in the end, bring them all back and let them all meet all of you and interview in front of you.
Yeah, my preference would not to ask about judicial philosophy because I'm not sure.
That might not be the right.
I
thing, but,
think
like,
sort of
just open
why,
thing,
and we will have an interview. So are everybody okay adding a field? Just open-ended, why have you applied for this position?
Yeah.
That's fine.
I was just gonna say, one thing that I'd
Right,
be
yeah.
interested in too, and this doesn't have to be done now, but bringing in Judge Whitney and doing a debrief, so to speak, or, the second branch of government, talking to the third branch of government.
Sure.
And then thinking too that this position also like manages the judicial side of our government. Maybe something about like how they manage a group or how they run a practice or preferences with technology, communication, like any of those types of things that might be appropriate just to kind of get an idea of their working style to make sure that that meshes with what's kind of been going on.
We certainly can. We can ask that question. So.
Or maybe that's better in the interview. I don't know what's better on the
That might be a
application and
great
better on the
interview question. After Senate Bill 5, the structure of the municipal court, obviously the judge is the appointing authority and supervisor of the court staff. Of course, the judge is not here all the time. And so in my role, the finance has historically been their liaison and helping to bridge that gap, but we don't oversee them. And so the judge is that. And so I work closely with Judge Whitney on any employment or personnel issues and such like that, or needs of the office for that. I think it's a great question for the interview process. We also built in to have, as you have finalists that day, potentially doing those with the court staff as well. So that
That was
finalists
my
can
other
meet with the
question.
staff and see how the working relationship.
Yeah, I think that if we can include them in the process, that would be positive.
All right, and then the last question then, I don't think anyone has any problem with the posting of materials. Do you want a salary listed or not?
I think we should not. I think we should review it.
You would.
I would.
Got two sides and two different answers.
So is salary something negotiable? Or this is what we're gonna offer?
That's a collective question.
I mean, I think if it's in line with class and comp, then we should post it, even if it's, with some kind of a range. I mean, that's the move in employment nationwide is to post salary ranges. So I would do the same.
Yeah, that was my position, is that it is being done more often. Just,
Karen, will you move your microphone? Thank you.
yes, so yeah, I think it should be posted.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, then we'll post it. All right, thank you very much for putting this together and for the presentation. So we then need to actually vote on the resolution.
Yes,
And,
Mayor.
and you've called for it and there's been a second, so we go straight to the vote.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
All right, this moves us to resolution 2023-08, which is the related to employment benefits. Councilmember Bliss, would you call for the adoption?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the adoption of resolution number 2023-08.
Second.
All right, I'm going to start with a statement myself, and then anyone who has other comments they'd like to make are welcome to join that. And I don't typically read, but I want to get this right, so I'm going to mostly read this statement. So tonight, the city council will take steps to implement a compensation plan for the fire department after more than a year of negotiations with Local 2665, the union representing the fire department. Because we have reached impasse, the collective bargaining agreement is terminated. The city has been in negotiations with Local 2665 since January of 2022. This council and city leadership find that Local 2665 has negotiated in bad faith. The city has participated in at least 12 bargaining sessions since September with the union. From the start of bargaining, the city has maintained that the priority must be controlling rampant overtime spending. As a reminder, overtime spending in the fire department has never been higher and has increased every year since 2019. During fiscal year 2022, overtime spending exceeded our budget amount by more than $324,000, or more than 225%. Both parties have submitted offers that were rejected, but repeatedly the union has taken steps backwards by demanding to reopen items and issues that had already been agreed upon. As the elected leaders of this community, we did not expect and cannot accept more delays or stalling. As a result, on Friday, February 24th, the city of Webster Groves issues its last, best, and final offer to the union. On Friday, March 3rd, we received a counteroffer with provisions that we had already told the union we were unable to meet. To be clear, as we prepare to act tonight, negotiations have failed and there is no longer a collective bargaining agreement. However, the city's commitment to fire department personnel remains strong and is demonstrated by the benefits package provided to fire personnel. The plan that the city will adopt tonight represents the single best compensation offer to a set of employees ever adopted by this city. And the city is able to fund the benefits package by controlling overtime spending. The city's compensation plan provides for a continuation of the fire department STEP program with a 2% COLA built in to the pay ranges. Also added to this plan is an annual $1,000 stipend for each union member. These two features alone combine for an average 6% yearly increase for each member in the steps compared to the 2% COLA increase that non-unionized members received in fiscal year 2023. Additionally, the city will implement a longevity pay program for those union members who are at the top of the STEP program. These members will receive 1/8 of 1% of salary as an additional stipend for every year of service. This longevity pay will range from $1,409 to $3,905 per senior member annually. The city will increase acting captain pay from an average of 75 cents per hour to $2 per hour on top of regular pay. And the city will purchase additional cancer insurance coverage for union members in the Missouri Critical Illness Plan. The action taken tonight will maintain our ideal staffing model that has been implemented in the past, but allows us to drop to 10 members on duty if sick leave, vacation, or other leaves occur. All told, the city will spend more than $11 million on salary and benefits for our firefighters over the 3 years of the contract, not including extra overtime or incidental pay. I think it's fair to say that all of us on council and in the administration wished for a fully bargained agreement. However, that is not where we are. In spite of that, this compensation plan for our fire department staff is the best compensation ever adopted by the city for any employee group and allows our city and its staff to move forward with certainty about the future. I do have an addendum. I did hear today from Mr. Youngblood on behalf of Local 2665, and he wanted to communicate to me that he disagrees with the characterization of bad faith bargaining and would like to see negotiations continue. I committed to him that I would share that with you as council members. That was about 5:30 this afternoon. I now will, I don't know if the city manager wants to make a comment, and then we'll open it up for all comments.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. So I would echo Mr. Youngblood's sentiment, and I agree that negotiations can certainly continue. Should council move forward with this resolution, what it does is go ahead, and I won't repeat everything that the mayor said, but our firefighters have been without an increase for several months. And we went through negotiations. Other employees received the 2% during the fiscal year. Our firefighters, union members did not. So by moving forward with this action, we're able to increase their steps and move them forward in the step program, give them their 2%. On average, each member will receive 6%. So I think this will help our firefighters as well as the organization as a whole be able to move forward. And indeed, should we be invited back to negotiations, I would certainly recommend that we continue negotiations.
Thank you. Other members have comments?
No, your comments was very clear and precise, Mayor.
All
You've
right,
touched on everything.
let's have the vote then, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
All right. Is there
Can I
anything?
say something really quick?
Yes.
I was just gonna say 7-0. I mean, to stop putting the blame solely on Dr. Peoples, 7-0, this council has agreed with what she has recommended. And so if you have anyone to be upset with, it's this council. If you have any disagreements with, it's this council, because we're agreeing with what she's done. So the question is, why are we agreeing with it? And it's because it's clear that you've operated in bad faith or negotiated in bad faith. And I would say this, as a son of a union, a union father, I am sitting here today because of the direct benefit that union gave to him and to my family. And it appears to me that the leaders of the local union here have put the interest of those that have been here the longest on the table at the higher priority than those that have been here the shortest amount of time, including longevity pay. They were upset with the recalculation that benefited those that were here less. So it seems to me that there's a problem within the union more than there is a problem with the negotiation of the city of Webster Groves. I think that the members of the union need to start looking at their leadership.
Yeah, can I add comment? Thank you. Just want to add to David's comment is that not only did Dr. Peoples keep this councils in step, we made the decisions as a council as she moved forward. So it's decisions that she didn't make on her own. It was decisions made by the council.
Any other comments? All right. Was there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? Councilmember Smith, could you call for the approval of the consent agenda? please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second. Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss. Yes. Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
All right, we did make some, here we go, some appointments to boards and commissions. Charles Yannicki
Well done.
has been appointed to the Board of Adjustment, Frank Romano to the Old Webster Business District Advisory Commission, John Hickey and Andrea Parton to the Sustainability Commission, and Julia Leaning to the Crossroads Special Business District Advisory Commission. We do have a brief closed session, is that correct?
You're going to give me some information. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna do this under personnel.
Yes, ma'am. Subsection 3.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for an executive closed session related to personnel, Missouri statute 610.021, open parens, 3 close parens.
Second,
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
All right, thank you all. So Sarah will go off and come back. All right.